All of a sudden, it was pitch black night. All of a sudden, I see the airplane just descending just in front of us, and it must have been seconds from impact.
You wrote a blog called "A Very Close Call Over the Sahara." For people listening, and for myself too, because reading it probably doesn't do the experience justice, but like in your words now, like what was that close call? Because it seems like too close to be true. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was. I know which blog post you're referring to. This was a really close call, unintentionally. It was at night. We were flying also with the F-15 turboprop, flying back from one of those, let's say, outstations back to the capital of this Saharan country. And you have to realize that air traffic control in those countries is not as sophisticated as we have in Europe or in let's say, in the United States. They don't have radar there. They're basically plotting on the paper chart the positions of airplanes. And I do that by asking the pilots, what's your position? What's your radial? So basically, they're asking the pilots what their distance to a certain navigation beacon is and their relative bearing. And they just plot it on the chart, and they plot it with all the airplanes, and then they give us some clearance to either go left or right or descend and climb. And I was giving my position plots to the air traffic control, and I was listening to other traffic over my headset as well. And it's not really that busy. And all of a sudden, I realized that there was an airplane giving his position that was eerily similar to ours. And my captain, I think he was reading a book or was doing something else. So I already notified him, and I said, well, we have to be careful now because there can be a confusion in position of airplanes. But then again, every airplane has a system on board which is called TCAS, and it stands for Traffic Collision Avoidance System, and it means that all the airplanes that have TCAS on board, they communicate with each other, and they warn the pilots if we're getting too close to each other. We also see, basically on our navigation display, we see all the traffic around us. That's indicating how high they're flying or the relative position to us. And we had no traffic on our navigation display whatsoever. I just heard the other pilot talking in my headset about this position. So my captain said, well, the moment we see him on the navigation display, we'll know where he is, and it'll be fine. So at one point, the other traffic, again, I was really attuned to this guy because I had this uncanny feeling that he must have been pretty close. And the controller of the airport basically cleared this other traffic, which was a really big jetliner, to descend through our level, basically to start his approach to the airport. And all of a sudden, it was pitch black night. All of a sudden, I see the airplane just descending just in front of us, and it must have been seconds from impact. And probably the other pilots of the big jetliner, they've never seen us because we were a really small turboprop. It was dark, so I don't think they've ever seen us, especially coming from an angle like coming from our let's say 8 o'clock, descending through our level. So the other pilots probably have never seen us, and my captain and I, we just looked at the huge machine that was just descending through our level, and within a second it was gone. So it was happening within a second. There was nothing we could have done, and it was really close call. And then you realize that not all airplanes in Africa, they have this TCAS system, which is mandatory, but you're just completely dependent on the maintenance level of other airplanes. And in this case, air traffic controller, even though he should have known where we were, it didn't it didn't send an alarm off with him. So as I said, I had the feeling something was off because these numbers were eerily correct, and then all of a sudden you see it happening. The airplane descends through our level within a second. Danger is gone, but this is a really strange feeling of being completely helpless there in that spot and position. And then, of course, you file some reports. You say, "Oh, we had a near miss. This happened." But in Africa, I mean, nobody cares there. So the report is probably being read and just being thrown away, and that's it. So this kind of stuff that happens probably quite often. I was just lucky that I survived it. But it's Africa. It's Africa. Especially when we were flying in Africa, we had this saying. It's quite famous saying, TIA. This is Africa. It's like the excuse for basically go with the flow and TIA.
Yeah.
This is Africa.